Everybody, just wanted to help with verifying trigonomic identities. So, got a couple examples pulled up here from Alex. This first one, they just want you to fill in the rules. So what they're doing is they're simplifying as they go along. Okay, so here we've got sine squared x plus 2 cosine squared x. Okay, so the first thing that they did was look, 2 cosine squared x is still here in the next line, but sine squared has been transformed to 1 minus cosine squared x. Okay, so that's using the Pythagorean identities. So we'll go down and let me move it so you can see it. I'm going to go to Pythagorean identities on this list. Okay, and so you can recognize those. There's 3 of them. There's 3 sets of them. Okay, sine squared plus cosine squared equals 1 is a Pythagorean identity. And they just rearranged. They rearranged the identity. Sine squared equals 1 minus cosine squared x. Okay, so maybe if you're still, if you practice that and still not sure, do a Google search for what a Pythagorean identity is. The Pythagorean trig identity is probably what you want to type in. Okay, yeah, so for the next part here, there's a negative 1 cosine squared x plus 2 cosine squared x. That makes a positive 1 cosine squared x. So they just did algebra here. They just combined like terms. So I'm going to hit the check button off screen, and then we're done with verify that example. Okay, oops, let me back up so we can do another. Sorry, I'll just take a second here. There we go. Okay, so here's a different one. So here's another one of the Pythagorean trig identities. Secant squared x minus 1 is tangent squared x. That's what changed from the first line to the second line. So we'll label that. And then if you rewrite tangent, tangent is sine over cosine. So if you rewrite tangent as sine over cosine, or in other words, rewrite tangent squared as sine squared over cosine squared, the text that we use in Alex is using the quotient identity there. Okay. And then you got sine squared over cosine squared times 1 over sine x. So the cosecant changed. We use the reciprocal rule. Okay, you can rewrite the reciprocal trig functions. Cosecant is 1 over sine. Secant would be 1 over cosine. And cotangent is 1 over tangent. And then let's see what they did next. They just let's see. Oh, so sine squared x on the numerator, and then sine x in the denominator. A sine squared up top and a sine to the first on bottom. One of those canceled out, so that's an algebra trick. Okay, so we're gonna write algebra here because they also rearranged too. There's a cosine squared. They put cosine x and then they put the other cosine x here. And that way, if you were to multiply these back together, they'd still make cosine squared x. And then sine x over cosine x, that equals tangent x. So that's the reciprocal rule again. Sorry, quotient rule. Sorry. When we say tangent is sine over cosine, that's quotient rule. Okay. And then last part, they use the reciprocal rule again. 1 over cosine, that's secant. Okay, that's it for that one. So hopefully that gets you started, or it helps maybe clarify some of those rules. A lot of students have trouble with this topic, so hopefully that helps.